today we are also going to have a guest from MMRDA who are, taking a lot of policy decisions. Pethe sir has been always an expert in
He has served as a professor of econometrics and his scholarly footprint includes numerous research publications, two authored books, and the successful guidance of 25 PhD scholars. He has contributed significantly to academic governance as Dean of the Faculty of Arts and member of the Management Council. A renowned policy expert, he has advised premier institutions, including the Government of India, Government of Maharashtra, RBI, World Bank, and UNDP. His expertise has shaped critical committees on education, regional imbalance, housing indices, and urban development. Currently, he continues to serve the nation as chairman of the academic board of NISM and senior fellow at the Pune International Center. A visionary leader, Dr. Pethe's work continues to influence governance, academia, and public policy in the lasting ways. We welcome you, sir. I now take the privilege to welcome the distinguished chief guest, Shri Pradeep Yadav, Chief of Urban Design at MMRDA, a visionary leader whose work continues to redefine how cities breathe, grow, and inspire the communities that inhabit them. Because since the establishment of the Urban Design Division on 10th March 2021 under his guidance, this department has not only emerged as a strategic pillar in Mumbai's ever-evolving development ecosystem, but has also set a benchmark for thoughtful, future-oriented and human-centric city planning, ensuring that design is not merely aesthetic but meaningful, functional, and deeply connected to cultural identity. His efforts reflect a forward thinking approach that balances sustainability with innovation, global perspective with local relevance, and infrastructure with the emotional pulse of the city, reminding us that urban spaces are not just built environments, but living systems created for people, interactions, memories, and aspirations. The work of the Urban Design Division under his leadership focuses on creating vibrant, accessible, safe, and inclusive public spaces that enhance movement. Today, as we welcome him, we also celebrate his contribution to shaping a Mumbai that is not only modern and efficient, but also human, culturally rich, visually appealing, and resilient. And we are truly privileged to have him with us because his presence adds immense value to this gathering and inspires us to think, design, and dream with purpose. We welcome you, sir. I now request our principal, Dr. Rohini Kelkar, to felicitate our guests for today. Professor Abhay Pethe, sir. Our chief guest for today, Shri Pradeep Yadav. I now request Dr. Pethe, our keynote speaker for today, to address the gathering and take the session ahead. Welcome, sir.
Right. Is there some way I can control this or you will do it? अच्छा आपल्याकडे हे नाही आहे. Okay. So thank you for having me this morning. And I've stopped lecturing for the last 20 years. But when Rohini's college calls, there are three exceptions. One is Sophia, where I taught for a couple of years. And of course, Xavier's, where I learned. And then if a student like Rohini calls or her college calls, I come. Otherwise, I don't go and lecture these days. So, a pleasure to come here. So let me begin with this. You'll realize that I have smartly avoided talking about the subject itself of the conference. That is where you will be deep diving and bringing your research papers and whatever. What I've learned as a teacher over all these years is that whatever questions we ask, the students will write what they know. So irrespective, they're invariant over what we ask. So I'm following that. And what I will do is quickly try and provide some kind of a framework for you to consider whether it is smart, innovative, future ready, etc., kind of cities that we want to do. And I'm a great believer in first principles. Always begin with the principles. That is important. So next, please. You can forget about the structure of the talk in presentation. You will get to know of it. So next. Right. So one of the points here is that India's future is decidedly urban. There are no two ways about it. When we were growing up, we were brought up on this idea that India lives in our villages and all that kind of rubbish. Fortunately, the policymakers, as well as everyone else who is thinking about it, has come to realize that urbanization is a good thing. It leads to enhancement of productivity, and that is going to be the future of India. And policymakers also have come round to that because it was not always so. It was looked at something as a necessary evil, and as far as possible, let people go back and so on and so forth. And the contribution of the urban spaces in India has been overwhelming. The problem is that the last couple of decades, it has been stagnating. And that is the reason why we need to look after our cities and city regions better so that they can fulfill their potential. Now, the nature of urbanization, and one of the things is that some of my students like Vaidya, Tandil and others have worked on this using nightlight data to find that India seriously underestimates its urbanization. We are currently officially around 35%, but we actually, according to me, is around 60. Certainly in Maharashtra, we are far more urbanized than what we considered officially, which is around 45% for Maharashtra. So, but that's a separate issue. I'm going to flag these issues quickly because Rohini tells me I need to finish this in half an hour. You let me know 5 minutes before, so I'll finish that. The nature of urbanization in India is again very important, and I'm happy that Pradeep is here. And I'm a strong believer that going forward, urbanization and its issues and problems will not be confined to city limits. It would have to be looked at in a metropolitan regional sense. And just one fact that 5 metro regions in India contribute more than 10% of the GDP of India, or GVA, if you like, of India. So that's the importance in terms of growth poles and economic contribution and so on, which is stagnating. We need to look at it. Problem again is that in India, we need to declare urban, and there's a pushback both from politicians as well as from people to be declared urban. In India, everything that remains is rural. That's the way we define in our census. Uh, the nature of urbanization is such that a large number of small and medium towns are in close proximity to large primate metropolitan cities. And that's another reason why we need to look at metro regions. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about our federal structure, and not really the federal structure, but the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments, which started officially empowering the Panchayati Raj institutions and the urban local bodies. Note that we continue to call them urban local bodies and not governments, although now we have started calling them ULGs rather than ULBs. This is a not only a colonial hangover, but it is also a hangover of the current states, which consider urban bodies or city governments as their creations, that they basically control everything. My point here is that after 73rd, 74th, there is a constitutional validity for the third tier government, and they should be considered to be governments as such. They are not. Now, one of the main things in these constitutional amendments was decentralization, informed by subsidiarity principle. Now, decentralization has these three things: delegation, uh, decongestion, which we have managed. But devolution is something that we have not managed. Devolution essentially talks about sending untied grants in a formulaic way through the instrumentality of state finance commissions. Just as we have finance commissions at the center, which send monies down, resources down to states, both to take care of vertical as well as horizontal imbalances, state finance commissions are supposed to do that. A progressive state like Maharashtra has had 5 state finance commissions. Sixth one will be submitting its report next month or so. In the fifth finance commission, I was a member, and I had to put in a paragraph in the report saying that we are extremely sorry that we are not able to perform the fundamental or the basic formulaic devolution for the simple reason that we do not have data. Data is not provided, despite the fact that the UD and the RD secretaries were with us. Things have changed now because I'm working with the Sixth Finance Commission. My friend Nitin Karir is the chairman there, and we're working on some aspects of it. And I find that a lot of data has now been made available largely because Nitin was CS and he has UD and RD secretaries on board and so on and so forth. And also we have improved on that. State finance commissions then become our institutional reform that was supposed to be the proper instrumentality by which resources should have flown down. But we don't allow our institutions to function. And then we create parallel things like MP-led schemes. We start giving money to others. Now, why should a corporator in Mumbai go and talk in the Prabhak Samiti and get involved for 50,000 rupees when he has 2 crores to spend on his own? So that's the way we undercut our institutions. We should not be doing that. We also have weak local governments. Internationally, you find that it's about 5 to 6% of the whole GDP is the size of the government at the third tier. We are less than 1%. That's a weak government that we have. Naturally, it does not, I'll not talk about the urban transitioning thing on which I'm currently working with the help of a retired Government of India Secretary of Panchayati Raj. You know, we have so much of rural area that needs to be transformed into urban, but we do not have a process. When we started looking at it, we found that in India, only Odisha has that process. Kerala, we have just suggested, and they are going to be doing something about it. But anyway, next one. So basically, we have a missing public finance. You skipped one thing. Go back. Yeah. So here the problem is that, or the challenge is that there are very few revenue handles that are remaining with the local bodies. It's well to say that, you should do on your own a lot of things, etc. And it's true that even within the kind of bands that are available, most local bodies don't exert themselves. In fact, we found that after the monies coming in through JNNURM and other things, actually cities were not able to absorb the funds that were coming. So there was no question of, exerting to do more and raise revenues. But they don't have revenue handles, especially post GST. Even earlier, they didn't have too many. The state government had used up most of the handles that they had, that we teach in textbook economics. But now there is nothing left with the local governments to raise except property tax. And people talk about property tax and reforms and so on. We all know from rental to rateable to capital value and how capital value is the best. As students of economics, we should know that it doesn't matter really what you follow. If it is working within an efficient market, then all of them will give you the same result. Nevertheless, when I was asked to advise a PMC commissioner had called me and said, can you help us with improving our property tax collections? I looked at him and said, what do you want me to do? And he said, we want to go into capital value taxation. And I looked at what they were doing. And I told him, sir, but you're already using capital value. And he looked at the property tax guy and said, Kai mantat, sir? We are already on capital value. And I said, we use. I said, the moment you start using ready reckoner rates, you are on capital value, right? But anyway, my advice to them was forget about reforms, etc. Just look at where you're collecting it from. Look at the equity. And explain to me, how does it happen? And we keep on talking about our IT prowess and everything in GIS, etc. How does it happen that 40% of properties in Pune remain unassessed? Where do they go? How do they hide? So I said, just do administrative reforms. That would be enough for you, because nowhere in the world property taxes can give more than 30% of the total expenditure of the local government, except one or two basket cases. 30%. And you are already doing that. And if you're doing that, you should be happy. Therefore, all this talk of reforms, etc., is great, but please realize that cities by themselves, especially given our tax design, do not have, they are not surplus entities. They are deficit entities. They create value, but all the advantages go to the higher level governments, whether it's tax buoyancy to the state or the center. So it is a pragmatic rationality that they should be sending resources and looking after the cities, not as aid, but as investment, because that's how this is the golden goose kind of an argument that one is making. Next, please. So, first principles, I believe governance is the key. Now, we all talk of good governance and so on. And many times when we find that the outcomes are not good, we resort to lazy solutions. Things like, sab corrupt hai, unko capacity nahi, ye nahi kar sakte hai, and all that. What I'm doing is I'm proposing a 4-bucket kind of, it's not a grandiose term, it's a bricks and mortar stuff, 4 kind of buckets. One is policy design. The second is processes and protocols. The third is capacity. And the fourth is IEO, or the Independent Evaluation Office. If you have all of this, then the use of this is that if you find that the outcomes are not good, then backcast and see, why is it? Is there something wrong with the policies? Is there something wrong with the capacity? Are the processes too tenuous? Can we reduce the transactions cost there? And so on. And we can locate it and change it. That's the reason. That's the simple mantra I have. Next, please. So, since SMART is mentioned here, and I'm not particularly happy with the official definition of SMART that Government of India has put out or had put out. I don't know what has happened recently. Sudden silence on SMART mission, etc., for good reasons. So for me, SMART is just a process or a strategy where you create an ecosystem where the state, the government, the private sector, the civil society, and the academia are in continuous dialogue with each other and exchanging information whilst taking decisions, leveraged by IT. So that is my definition. Understand, therefore, that SMART is a process or a strategy. It is not to be confused with a well-managed or a good city. That's not an outcome. Although we hope that by using SMART strategy, you will get good outcomes. The second point on this slide is, after looking at governance in the way I'm suggesting, look at it through the twin lens of livelihoods and livability, because that is where the habitations happen, and that's why people come. They want ambience, they want attraction of good investors, they want good life, right? So basic services and amenities need to be provided, which is the livability, which is the public goods, and sometimes even merit goods like water and so on, which is strictly speaking not a pure public good, but we need to provide them as a government, especially in developing countries. Yeah. And then there is the livelihoods, because we expect these places to attract investment, be growth drivers, and therefore continue to increase employment. There's a tenuous link between investment and growth and employment, especially now, and I have my views on that, but that's a separate issue. But this twin lens will be very, very helpful. The first one looks at inclusivity, and the second one really talks about the growth or the employability. Next, please. So principles, the policies have to be underlying them. There, you need to have principles that must address them. One of them is one price principle, which is no arbitrage. No brainer, Econ 101, right? But we don't follow it when it comes to policy. For example, in the setting of FSI, I don't have the time to go into it. FSI is a granular planning tool. But how do we set our FSIs here? We set it for the whole of Mumbai as one. Please have a look at the design and the planning of Manhattan area. It's granularly decided which part and which zone will have what FSI. The second is stock flow equilibrium. There are commerce students here and even others who know present value calculations, right? There has to be an equilibration between the stock and the cash flows that go out of it. We don't follow that when we have rent control, when we design our policies for affordable housing, especially the SRA kind of stuff that we do. The third is incentive compatibility. As an economist, this is the cornerstone. Incentives matter. That is the way to, that is goodness of law. Keep morality, ethics, everything out. That's not a good thing when you're formulating policy. General equilibrium, you look at everything. Governance in governments, a lot of the time, work in silos. They are interdependent, they need to work together. And then unintended consequences. We have a principle which says, for each instrument, there should be one goal. If we don't do that, you're going to mess up the whole thing. And we have enough kind of examples. Again, rent control, the ALCRA, which is there, the Urban Land Ceiling Act, and of course, what we did with Reserve Bank of India for some time, and so on. Second, there is no free lunch. You have to pay. I mean, I could give a full lecture on this, but let me minimize discretion. I understand that for complex situations, you can't codify everything, and that's not a good way to go about doing things either. My suggestion is have rules. Wherever you're not following them, openly come out and say that this is where I'm using discretion for this reason. Contractual sanctity across political regimes. Very important. Otherwise, investors don't want to come because they don't, suddenly there is a flip-flop in policy. They huge risk. As it is, they are taking risk, right? And have a sense of realism, of political capacity. Understand that we live in the second best kind of a world, and we are dealing with sentient beings. We are not in the business of doing physics or whatever. We are dealing with intelligent beings where announcements matter. Yes? Next, please. I'll spend a moment on this capacity building. Whose capacity? Capacity to do what? Very important. So whether it's the policy design at the higher levels of government to the lower levels where the files get pushed and stuff like that. There's a large amount of capacity lack, especially at the lower levels and the middle levels of bureaucracy. Our IAS chaps are smart, bright, they can pick up everything, supposed to be gods anyway. So there's no problem there. It's the middle level bureaucracy, but it's also the elected representatives. It's also the NGOs who do advocacy, which need to have capacity to be built. Uh, and to do whatever, to either criticize or to design policies and then to implement. That is important. All of that requires urban observatories and database that is reliable, consistent, but we keep on talking about empirical evidence, data-driven and so on. Reliable, comparable data is still not easily available. One final thing, apart from I won't talk about the writing of complex PPP contracts, which is not just a problem with us, it's a problem with even the developed world. UK, when it does a PPP in health, hires private lawyers and private firms to write the complex contracts. It's too much to expect that we should do that. But Vijay Karkar's report on that is very important. Like most reports, it's gone under cold storage. So that's fine. But at least students, we should be aware of it on revitalizing PPPs in India. It's a short report. I would recommend that those of you who are interested should be looking at it. The final point of this slide is, suddenly my friend VK Phatak, who was used to work in MMRDA, brought this in our discussion. He said, we keep on talking of capacity building, and in Yashoda, we are doing a lot of stuff, bringing training modules. In fact, we have developed an MA program in administrative development, which we have made compulsory for everybody, and so on. We are a participatory democracy, right? So if things are not going right, why are people not shouting about it? Why is this chalta attitude? Why is it that Bombay is resilient hai, sab? Why is that? So there is a need to look at creating and strengthening the agency for the demand side of good governance. People must be able to shout and say this in a concerted way where it will reach the politicians and the policymakers. And then they will probably work. Next, please. I'm actually going to skip this particular thing. I don't have time to get into this, except to say that, we don't, public policy doesn't happen in a vacuum. The geography, the culture, etc., all of that matters. And also when we are designing policies and recommending it to the politicians and the policymakers, one thing we need to understand is their constraints, which is very important and which gets reflected in timing when if election is going to come and tomorrow, and if I go and tell the minister, a property tax hai, usme badhana chahiye, he look at me like a fool, and he should. That's not I have to understand his language, his constraints and so on, because they have accountability far more than us who are academics and so on. One thing here, finally, I want to talk about on this is whenever we discuss stuff or announce policies, let's try to minimize the time between when we announce it and when we actually implement it. Because that leads to agent repositioning, which means that people who were kind of benefiting from the earlier system, we try to reform, but take so much time that they reposition and again continue to benefit from the new system. The classic example is the MTHL, which finally MMRDA did it through an iteration when Ambani came, then nobody came, and then finally MMRDA said, Amit saksham hai, ami karu. When the earlier CM had said, they saksham nahi. But they did it finally, a great job. But see what has happened. On the other side of that, the prices are already discounted by the market years before there was MTHL, right? So that's just an example I want to flag. Next, please. Some examples why things should matter. Mumbai is a linear city. So if you draw this circle around it, 3/4 of it is in water. So it has its own constraints that we will need to look at. Next, please. This is what I mean. World over, the FSI regimes, if you look at the origin as the CBD or the central business district, and you move away, it becomes like what is the demand curve. And for good reason, because that's where, as you go further, the unit land cost, which is lower, must economically be equivalent to the unit land cost in the CBD. The only way it will happen is if you have high FSI in the CBD and lower there. So there has to be this kind of a thing. See what has happened to Mumbai. Except for Dharavi, where there is a sudden blip of 4 or whatever, or Bandra Kurla complex, where our chief guest resides officially, where MMRDA is there and does its stuff. This is the kind of stuff we have done. Now, you do a policy like this, and then you start shouting about the chaos in the built up area. In one of the reasons is that. Next, please. This is just to show you how the slums have developed and so on. But the next slide is more important. Yeah, next one. See, one would think that most of the slums are on the kind of government land, because government land is everybody's land or nobody's land, right? If you look at it, private lands, 46% of private lands are encroached by slums. This was a puzzle that I had a solution for about 15 years ago when I did some work for the World Bank on land markets in Mumbai. And it's a KPO, so I couldn't publish it. They just paid me and kept it for internal thing. But this is an interesting kind of a paradox that you find. If at all there are any questions, I'll respond to that. Next, please. I will not talk about this, except to say that FSI and TDR, those of you who are old, really, or elderly, will remember in the beginning in banking, we used to do that. Before 1997, we used to set SLRs and CRRs so high that they were a cheap source of finance for the government. There's a captive market and so on, right? We're doing the same thing for FSIs. Well, हो दे. I know, recently झालंय ते. Okay. Right. So let me continue. The point about this several, and we could take up some of them if at all you have the questions or whatever. But again, to repeat, use FSI and TDR sensibly. Don't use them as fiscal tools. I remember having a discussion with one of my close friends, Mr. Kunte, who was the commissioner, and I said, "You are a D-school economist, and see this. Remember, all you say is fine. Argue with 15,000 crores or 1,500 crores in those days against that. We are getting that out of doing all this. So, आप रखो उधर, वो they use these things. I have nothing against actually charging for FSI. That's not a problem. My problem is charging for them in a functional or global manner. कि आप अच्छा कर रहे हो तो आपको ज्यादा FSI मिलेगा. Terrible. These are spatially coordinated planning tools which have to be used granularly, not the way we are using. And yeah, that's it. I mean, we can habitat a full discussion can happen on housing and affordable and all of that and the problems. Course, doing studies and so on with the help of ORF earlier when I was with them. Uh, don't repeat SRA kind of stuff, but every government, irrespective of political affiliation, comes and continues it for some time. Again, why? We all know, or maybe not know. Next, please. Yeah. Since you're going to be talking of green, let me, I've put in a couple of slides on this, the 800-pound gorilla of climate that we have to talk about. It's like the Nandi we have to touch every time. A few points here. Stop scaremongering. When we were growing up, we used to have something called the much before your time, 60s, we used to have something like the Club of Rome, who used to scare us, pura resources khatam ho jayega, idea, the whole world will collapse and whatever. Don't scaremonger when it comes to, we have become sufficiently desensitized. So if you start telling me कि भैया ये पानी ऊपर आएगा आधा बम्बई I say good अच्छा है. We are not scared of this. Start putting numbers there. And that's something that we have been doing with some of my students who work for WCT. आप लोग ये ecosystem services वगैरह बोलते हो. Huh? Start putting numbers to it. Then we will use cost-benefit analysis as we do, because remember, it has tremendous implications for procurement policy of the government, which will continue to be L1. There might be some modifications. You'll have technical, financial, and renegotiation, reverse, whatever, but it will be L1, and for good reason. That has to do with the wage contracts that the public officers have. They can't risk themselves by saying, कि I think this would be better. कल को नहीं होगा तो there'll be a committee and they'll be in jail. Right? So they'll say, L1 kiya, public cost barabar se kiya, that's going to happen. Change your accounting framework. Let's have a green kind of, accounting frame. And that's something that I've been asked to do now yesterday by my friend and mentor, Vijay Kekar. He suddenly called something, oh, Professor, let's do a green GSDP for Maharashtra and give it as a gift to Maharashtra government. So I said, great, we'll work on that also now. Next one. Forget this. Forget this. I don't have time to go into each one of them. So this is the suggested template that I have for hazards, informality, and vulnerability. First of all, you need to have data. So you have to have data mapping and vulnerability, etc., which is on the ground, which needs to reach, there's the information flow problem, which is what we were currently working on in Kerala. And Kerala has the advantage that they have something called the LSGD, the local self-government department. So there's a line department sitting in Mantralaya there, which works like that. We don't have, we have UD1, UD2, but they are not the same. Their job is basically to communicate what the line departments are doing and go down to the local levels. So not only should we have the thing, but when you do master plans, and you wanted to do risk-informed master planning, you need capacity at the local authorities to do it, information as well as capacity. So there is a way in which all of this can be done. There needs to be a little bit of tweak in the governance structure, but it can be done and it should be done. Otherwise, we'll keep on talking in the air and every time there's a flood. What is the kind? I mean, there are classical examples and good best practices world over that are available to us. We should make use of that. And this is the template that I am suggesting for taking care of hazards, vulnerability, and so on. Next, please. Okay, I'm quickly going to flag the reforms. FSI TDR I have spoken about, and it's something that is terrible, but not functional, not fiscal. Remember, it's a planning granular tool. Rent control needs to be reformed in a major way. DP, the development plan that we have, there was the earlier development plan and this one where I was involved as a sort of consultant. But the earlier one I studied for the bank again. And the conformity of the DP was 7%. Now I understand that planning cannot be 100% whatever you planned you will get. But 6%? Are we not going to? Then I realized what was happening. The statutory requirement of 30 years, and they used to ask me questions which were very strange. They would tell me, which is what everyone does. We need to do that. After that, I have become desensitized. Ki vibrant city mein, in like Mumbai, your population projection for 30 years. My first instinct was to say that this is like Birbalche Kavle. I can put any number there and I can justify. You see, then we got some experts on logistic, ye kiya, linear kiya. Finally, we convexified, gave them some number. No one tries to bother post facto ki baba aise झालं का? नहीं झालं, होत नाही ते. But we need to have rolling plans. What happens currently is you have a DP, there's a department which is actually a profit center in BMC. It is kept there. Mainly it derives through reservations and license fees. When you do the budgets, there is no projectization. There is no priority or sequencing, so that I can't say ki varshi, this year I will take this part of the plan and actually implement it. Where is the resource envelope to do it? That is done in a silo, completely decoupled from the overall vision of DP that we have. We need to change these things. We are actually getting into this in actual practice. But the final thing is land market reforms. One of the things India has not done is the factor market reforms, whether it's labor. Recently, we've changed the labor courts and everything, all of these. The added problem in India is being a federal thing. These are state subjects, but center has to create frameworks for it, whether it's education, water. The action is at the states, but frameworks have to be provided by the center. For land market, they tried to do it through rural development, funnily, but it has not really worked, not taken up. But that's the future. You will need to do that. Next, please. Land value capture, or what are called as LBFTs, are something that we need to do. I think MMRDA people do a good job with the development charges and so on. But impact and benefit taxes are difficult because there's a problem of rational nexus that courts will keep on asking you. The idea for the students is very simple. You put in some infrastructure as an externality. If you have a ownership of some property or home or whatever next door, you tend to have an increase in the value of the property. It is unearned income. So part of it can be taxed away, completely fair. The courts say you will have to establish rational nexus of this happening and causing this to go up by 100 so you can take away 40. That's difficult. We tried to do something like that in a paper for metros in Mumbai, and we found that we couldn't decipher any kind of an increase in the value of real estate around the metros after leaving the 500 meters. The reason was that the metros were announced earlier and the prices had been discounted by the market quickly enough. So by the time we kind of started working on it, it was all done. But monetization of private and public lands, at least the public lands, because the greatest guzzlers of this excess lands that we have, which is a huge resource, are of course railways, defense, and jails all over the world. Yes, we need to have a setup. And again, our federal system means land again is a state subject, but you have parastatals. And Mumbai, I don't need to say anything more, but to point you out to what is happening for the last 20 years that I know of. Now, finally, things are changing there with the BPT lands. Those guys simply will not listen to BMC or even the state government. They are central government people. Next. This is the point that I began with. I want to end with this kind of a thing. I think metropolitan level government, we don't seem to have worked out how it should be. It's going to be important. that's the lens we will need to adopt. Currently, we have MMRDA and development authorities everywhere, but there is no participatory governance model that we have. Directly elected mayors like the New York with a tri-state, or Lord Mayor of London for the entire metropolitan area. We need to look at all these things, and we need to really look at it. The idea of having one single guy, which was in the Vision Mumbai document, is terrible. It will never be politically feasible, but this guy will become so very powerful and important that the chief minister sitting a couple of kilometers away from him will not allow that to happen. Because if you have somebody who is a single authority who has all the power and the resources. But we need to work on this. Currently, the development authorities are doing a good job, but we need to work a governance model. Unfortunately, in the world, we don't have easy takeaways because there are all kinds of models that seem to have worked, not worked, and so on. People have gone from 6 levels to 2, gone back to 3, and so on. Yeah. But this is a problem that we need to go beyond the municipal city limits, because municipal city limits are not going to be able to solve the problems of the cities, whether it's solid waste management, affordable housing, or what have you. Next, please. So in closing, just repeating the same thing, so I won't take up your time. This is it. Next. Thank you.
I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Abhay Pethe for his illuminating and thought-provoking keynote address. Sir, your insights have not only enriched our understanding, but also have set a profound intellectual tone for today's deliberations. We are truly privileged to have been guided by your vast scholarship and distinguished perspectives. Thank you once again for gracing this platform with your wisdom. Thank you, sir. I now request Shri Pradeep Yadav, our chief guest, to address the gathering on this auspicious occasion. Welcome, sir.
Respected Petty sir, Tekra madam, industry representatives, students, and other faculty members present here. Good morning, everyone. Let me tell you, I've been told to come over here at the last moment, and so I've really not come prepared with any kind of presentation or technical inputs that I would give you. Some generalized pointers I have with me, which I'll be talking and closing in a few minutes. Just to continue with what Dr. Pethe said, over 40% of India's population will live in cities, and the decisions we take now about mobility, housing, environment, digital governance, and inclusiveness will determine our nation's trajectory for decades. The theme of this conference basically combines three powerful pillars. One is smart governance, which will include building responsive, transparent, data-enabled public systems. Second will be sustainable cities, which will ensure development that protects ecology, resources, and future generations. Third will be inclusive urban futures, making growth participatory, equitable, and accessible to every citizen. As working closely in these areas in Mumbai and MMR, I can say with conviction that these are not abstract ideas, but these are priorities. India is witnessing the largest infrastructure transformation in this history. In the Mumbai metropolitan region alone, we are executing over 10 to 12 metro corridors simultaneously. It's the biggest network that has been executed anywhere in India, I mean, even in the world, at one go. More than 100 major projects across mobility, roads, digital systems, and urban renewal. We have undertaken the largest urban renewal, slum renewal program, that is the Ramabai Ambedkar slum scheme. That has been undertaken jointly with SRA. We need a renewed focus on sustainability through green mobility, transit-oriented development, and integrated planning. So smart governance, as I said, is no longer a concept, it's a way of working. We are seeing AI-enabled citizen services, digitized mobility systems like Mumbai One app, integrated command and control centers, sensor-based environmental monitoring, and data-driven policy decisions. These systems are helping us reduce congestion, manage air quality, strengthen safety, and improve the everyday experience of citizens. What makes the conference like VCMT so valuable in the ecosystem they create? We cannot build the cities of the future by working in silos. We need academia to research, forecast trends, and bring critical insights, industry to innovate and scale technology, and government to implement, regulate, and ensure equitable development. VSIT, through its industry-aligned approach and research-oriented culture, is playing an important role in shaping the next generation of leaders. Your students are the professionals who will soon be designing mobility systems, developing AI tools, shaping urban policy, and driving sustainability initiatives. A smart city is not defined by smart sensors, but by smart decision making. It's not defined by how fast it moves, but by how inclusively it grows. So innovation must always answer questions like, does this improve the life of an ordinary citizen? Does it make mobility easier, safer, and more affordable? Does it reduce the environmental footprint? Does it create equal opportunities for all sections of society? This balance, technology, and empathy is what will define the urban centers of tomorrow. To the students, the message is your ideas, your research, your innovations will shape how India lives, travels, works, and grows. Be curious, be bold, question existing models, and always ensure that your solutions are rooted in people-centric design. I once again congratulate VCIT and CI for organizing this thoughtful and timely conference. The discussions we have curated on policy, governance, mobility, sustainability, and innovation will create pathways that many institutions and cities will follow. Thank you so much.
It is my profound privilege to extend a heartfelt thanks to our esteemed chief guest, Shri Pradeep Yadav sir. Your presence today has truly elevated this event, and your insightful words and inspiring thoughts have led this conference to set the right tone. Thank you so much, sir. The session is open for any questions for our chief guest or for Dr. Abhay Pethe. If any one of you would want to ask any question.
Correct the questions. I want one intervention to make it work.
Okay. Yeah. Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
I touched upon smart, I touched upon sustainability in terms of resource as an economist as well as green, but I didn't say anything about innovation. And that's why I want to make this intervention, especially for students. And just now, sir talked about various apps, etc., that you will be developing and so on, and inclusivity. So in that context, there is a book that I want to, I'm not an official seller of that book or anything, although it is written by a friend and a mentor of mine, by Raghunath Masherkar, which is called From Less for More, More from Less for More, which gives you examples, actually live examples of from different arenas, health, education, and so on, which have been coming out of the startups, which use innovative ways of reducing because that's what India is known for, our ISRO and everybody at the top level. We are 1/100th of the cost. We have been sending satellites and so on. So this is a book that those of you who are interested, want to know and want to innovate should look at. It's truly inspiring book, written in a very good narrative form. So please look at it for innovations, and you'll realize that these innovations, a lot of them from health sector, will improve the livability conditions of the poorer people. because otherwise we all know about the exorbitant costs of healthcare. But by these kinds of apps, and we are actually implementing it with ASHA workers now, giving them a handheld, which is going to allow them to actually travel in rural areas. One of the great things India has done is the fiber optics network. So we have it. So please do a glance at it. Please have that book in your library that students can read.
Yeah, please ask.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, sir.
Should I read it out? Could you please suggest few sources from where data for urban development or sustainability progress frameworks could be procured, since you mentioned data available is unreliable?
Sources would be, you will have to, actually one source on this would be what Janagara is doing. They have got a website called City Finances, which it is maintaining for MoHUA, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. It's not a completely satisfactory data, but they have dumped a lot of financial data. They're in the process of doing the benchmark of service delivery also, but those are self-reported, so quality is a problem, but it is there at least to begin with. Earlier, we never had that. This is pan-India level financial data on about 3,000. So it's not 100% of ULBs either, but it is there and it is useful. In fact, the presentation I used, there was Maharashtra's picture on it, and in that there were the dots which were mapping out the municipal corporations, the municipal councils, the Nagar Panchayats all over, and it's a live map. I mean, of course, I have cut and pasted it, but it's a live map that I have, where if you click on that, you get all the information about it and so on. And you'll see the imbalance in Maharashtra about urbanization and therefore development that we have. But I think that is one. NIUA guys do a decent amount of work in this. And for local, this thing, if you want, get to know somebody in Mantralaya. No, I'm not joking. I mean, it's unfortunately true, you know. If you know, like I have the advantage that yesterday I was having a meeting with Praveen Pardeshi in his Mitra thing, and three of the guys there were my former students. So it happens. Now, this is terrible that because I know they will give me an access. In DES, when I was working on the Nagar Palika thing, data, they gave me the data. They were happy to give the data because no one comes and asks us, we have all this. But he said, this can't be officially be given, but to you, since you are my sir, I'll give it to you. तुम्ही खाली जाऊन Xerox करा आणि we'll give. Because they again don't give you data in a user-friendly form. We're working on all of that, working with the government. It will happen. I'm not cynical. I'm a hopeless optimist. But if you know somebody in UD department and so on, they have the data. It may not be in a well-compiled manner. But start with Janagara's website. Huh?
Thank you so much, sir.
Anyone else?
Yeah. I have a question to both of you. This is Mandar. Sir, basically, we are talking about the metropolitan region. The solution could be the metropolitan region. But in the premise, if we compare the budget of, let's say, MCJ, Mumbai BMC, which is roughly 75,000 crores, but MMRDS budget is roughly 1/5 of it. So I have basically two questions. Multiplicity of authorities, or rather the overarching structures of multiple authorities, are they helping? If we say MMRDA is basically connecting infrastructure, apart from connecting infrastructure, can we think about basically in a metropolitan region, let's say waste management or any other topics? So first of all, are they helping? And second of all, if we wish to go about it, how we can empower them financially and how we can increase their financial autonomy of municipal corporation as well as MMRDA.
Hello. Before I specifically answer your question, let me tell you, I would like to give you an overview of MMRD basically. It's a regional planning authority which was set up in 1975 with the intention of having a balanced growth in the entire MMR region. So that was the basic, the fundamental with which this authority was set up. So more emphasis on in those days was on planning. So we started off with regional planning, and second part was we were also doing some financing to the urban local bodies. So there were funds coming from the central government. We had some, for some areas for which we were appointed as a special planning authority like BKC, wherein the land was owned by MMRDA, and so we sold those and still selling the plots. So through that we are raising funds. Now I'll come back to it later on. And so the first thing was a broader river regional planning work that we were doing. Subsequently, we were also appointed as a special planning authority for certain areas where government thought that certain different kind of inputs or specific kind of inputs needs to be given. So the one a major area was Bandakola complex, which you see now, which is coming up differently. So in that, along with planning, we have gone down to the urban design level, wherein we try to address the character of the area which is coming up the way it is. And subsequently, the role of MMRD changed midway, say around 90s or so, wherein we were interested with the task of even executing projects. So we were not into execution till that time. And after that, we started, getting into the execution of infrastructure works. So road, bridges, and ultimately today, what you see a large network of metros that we are executing. And also the flyovers and what sir talked about, the Atal Setu. So big and, impactful projects like that. So today the government is also having quite a lot of confidence on this authority, and it's one of the organizations which I feel proud about. That's even in India, it's been talked about and respected, the kind of and the scale of the projects that we are executing right now. So as far as the finances for these projects are concerned, nowadays we're taking a lot of loans for these projects. So, and those will be repaid through whatever revenue generations that will come through metros, through the ticketing and other things, and for Atal Setu through toll and everything. I cannot comment on BMC because I'm not really well versed, but if sir is there, he can just throw a light on that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if I understand your question, it's large, again, full lecture warranted. I will not. I'll very simply give you 3 points. Number one, is it possible for you to have multiple authorities and so on? Yes, it is possible. It is worked in various places. In fact, there is a whole theoretical literature on that by Ostrom, who got a Nobel Prize, who believes that metropolitan regions are best governed by polycentric governance. Yeah. So you should have that. Now, the point that I was making was that you should adopt a lens which is metropolitan in planning urban spaces now going forward. And more finance commissions are also recognizing urban spaces without talking about the underlying institutional framework, which is where MMRDA will come in and say, you will now become the disbursing authority or a deciding and disbursing authority, etc. What should be, and the current state of budgets, let's not even compare them, because MMRDA is not supposed to be having any revenue sources directly like the BMC has, So MMRDA has a large plot of land Some of it they will sell sometimes, which is not something I like, but that's not where I want to go. But they are given a land and they're not given budgets to do certain things. If it became a government in a participatory sense, and we'll need to work out how that will happen, whether it would be through indirect democracy, whether it would be through ULBs, that will then make a government. And there are examples of that where ULBs actually contribute to the funds of the metropolitan umbrella governance. So there are different models that are possible, within which there will be ULBs, which will be guided by decentralization. But for certain kinds of things, especially mobility, one thing on which there is a fair consensus is that there should be a unified metropolitan authority on transport. Problem is it doesn't work anywhere. I mean, I was a member of UMTA. 4 times I went to Sahyadri for the meeting and had good food there, but nothing concrete was happening. And the reason for that, I realized, was that nobody who matters used to come there. It was academics like me or retired IAS officers. At that time, Ramana Jha was there and he used to come. But unless, and Tamil Nadu is one place where these things have worked, both SFC as well as this. And the reason is that the transport secretary is a member of UMTA. Once you have a sitting secretary there, it has teeth. Then it matters. Otherwise, retired, then it becomes a think tank, baat karte raho kind of stuff. So, polycentricity is fine. It can be worked. The model, there is no given model. We'll have to work for it. Whether ULBs will send people into a body that will govern the MMRDA. We should move away from development authority, despite the fact that they're doing a good job of it. It is a nominated authority. And there are a number of people who are working there. I mean, the earlier draft plan was done with 4 people. Yeah, they didn't require it because they were doing it from a eagle's view kind of a thing. So things will have to change. And then the budgets will also commensurately change because the activities they will do will also be different. There should not be overlap of activities. Authority overlap, I have no issue with in a broad sense. I think I have. Mandar, if you want, I'll give you a reference, a book. There is a Bal, Lin and Wetzel book on financing metropolitan regions in the world. Fantastic group of people have contributed, mostly retired people from World Bank, but it was a Boston place that did it, Lincoln Land Institute.
Sure,
Look
sir.
at it. If you can't find it, tell me. I have a PDF. I'll
Sure.
send it.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Sir, my question is not a technical question, but there are certain reports which says that Vadala is going to be a new BKC center. So just my question is, what are your thoughts on that? Is that really true, or what are the plans or certain things like that?
Yes, it is true. Basically, let me tell you about the background for Vadala. Vadala was earlier designated to be developed as a truck terminal. And at that point of time, in those days, it was considered as an outskirts of the city. And so we thought that there has to be a truck terminal over there. But eventually that became very much part of the city and central part as of today. So now we are trying, and when in my earlier questions, I said that we are appointed as a special planning authorities for many smaller pockets. But what happens is there where we do not own the land, there we end up only preparing the plan and then, implementing it that by way of building permissions. But as Mandar had asked, from where are the finances coming? So that's the major source of finance for MMRDA. It started off that way. So BKC fetched us, 5 lakhs rupees per square meter as a rate. So which, gave us substantial revenues to carry out the infrastructure work. So Vadala and BKC are the only 2 SP areas where we own the land. And that's the reason now we are trying to see Vadala as a sort of a mini BKC. And being close to the BKC also, and having other connections also. So there is a monorail, there will be a metro passing through, and all such transport connectivities is also there. So it has quite a high potential to, to get developed on the lines of BKC.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. So this question is out of curiosity. We have seen this aqua line, recently operational from Sesh to Kolaba. Initially, first Worli and then to Kolaba. During this period, we haven't seen any adverse impact on traffic, especially this aqua line and inconvenience to the people. Whereas other metro line we have seen last 4, 5 years or 7 years together has caused a lot of impact and convenience. So why was not this thought, to have all the metro lines underground instead of over the roads? That is one question. Second is that we are talking about so many institutions, working together. Of lately, I have seen these metros are not directly connecting to the railways. People have to get down, walk, cross the roads, and go to the. Whereas outside countries, I have seen, up to the sea, not only the railways, the roadway, everything is connected, interconnected. So, should be some reason behind this? If you can elaborate, out of these questions are out of curiosity. Thanks.
I'm actually not a transport expert, and we have a full-fledged metro division, so they look after that. But to answer your question, a basic thing, I think that it would be a cost factor. Why all the lines are not underground? So it has a huge cost implications. And your second question, sorry, please come again. Interconnectivity of the metro. See, what happens is that considering the high land values in Mumbai, what we have tried to do is to run the metros along the existing roads, whereby we don't require to acquire the land. That is one of the things that comes forward. And the moment you try to connect that, to the station and everything, so a lot of other things, and many of the areas are developed also. So the easiest way we found that, to find the ridership routes, but also see to that it runs along the roads. So even in the areas where the development has not taken place and the roads are shown on the DP roads are shown on the plan, so we try to take the metros along that DP road only, so that by priority we can acquire at least the roads and start the work. So roads anyway they have to come to the authorities.
If I can just supplement, of course, there's costs and also the geography. Going underground, sitting Arabian Sea next door, you start having water issues. But cost is mainly the underground thing. You're absolutely right when it comes to the interconnectedness, not just of metro, but a seamless kind of what we keep on talking about as last mile connectivity and so on. It has happened elsewhere in the world. UMTA is the right place to do it. That's why now we have started at the other end by saying that we can have a ticket or a pass across all public, transport uh, vehicles or instrumentalities. But really, there is also the authorities that are different, and this is not a technical issue. It is also a political economy issue. Mahametro is there, Transport Authority is there, MMRDA sits there. Some of it is part of that, etc., etc. And I'll just give you one example how Mahametro sometimes acts like a big brother. In Pune, we had, at that time, I was advising the Vice Chancellor of Gokhale Institute. So these guys used to come to us. So this transport guy came to us from PMC, said, Sir, ek report banana hai. In this particular area, we want to dismantle BRT. And we gave it to them in a thing by writing very clearly that we are agnostic about whether BRT is better than metro or whatever and so on. Because there are a couple of my friends who started shouting at me later on saying, Tumi asa kasa lila? How did you say that? I said, I was answering a very simple question, which is that in the current situation where metro had put its pillars and the platforms and where people were egressing, right onto BRT. The BRT was non-functional anyway. It was now becoming a dump for waste and parking place and unsafe. and a lot of accidents were happening. We did all that ground truthing. So under these conditions, we said there's no point in converting. And I asked him, "Arey, but there was no coordination between you guys. I mean, you are running a BRT, you are putting the pillars in the middle of BRT. How did?" पर नहीं नहीं थे वो सब illegally किया, हमारा permission ही नहीं लिया. Now this is the intergovernmental kind of a thing. So all these things are a problem, but ultimately a good transport solution will have to be a seamless, integrated movement. Mobility is the main thing within a city. That will happen in due course, despite all the issues and so on. We are at the beginning of it. We are putting metros, we are doing simultaneously a lot of other things and so on. Because transport is a bouquet solution. No one single component is going to solve the problems. But your issues are right. That will happen hopefully if Mumbai is going to become anywhere close to a world-class city. And we all hope as Mumbaikars, although now I stay in Pune, but I still am a Mumbai person. Yeah.
We can take just one last question. Yeah. Lavanya, ma'am.
So my question is, as I have come across two words in your presentation, that is livelihood and livability. These are like really two important concern things for me as well, as the upcoming AI and ML that is taking care, that is taking over the industries, and data centers coming in, and which really requires the like smart infrastructures to come in the city. So how governance is trying to undertake the new policies that can be implemented in near future. So question is for both, like anyone can answer. Like what are the policies that the governance want to come up with in the near future? Can you throw light on that?
Yeah. Well, again, this is a huge problem that you are trying to talk about. This is an all India level problem. Livelihoods and livability are two lenses through which we should look is fine, and that is easily understood. Attracting investments and growth, very, very important. I think no-brainer. Let's not go back to the old age where we talked of less growth for development because development is different, etc. Let's understand that the growth story of India actually has led to all the nice things that we thought of being implemented in social policy. Yeah. The other question is to do with the employment multipliers. Now, the problem with AI and finance, high value, etc., is it doesn't have very high multipliers. Partial solution to that will have to be where have we lost out? We have lost out to Bangladesh. Forget China, I'm not even talking about. To Bangladesh when it comes to textiles. Okay? We've lost in apparels and footwear, which are the classic examples of employment generators. India's manufacturing has a missing middle. Yeah, that is well known, well documented. Going forward, if we are going to do all the smart things and AI, etc., which is inevitable because there is a micro rationality, the macro consequences of that for the employability are difficult to foresee. Personally, I don't believe, I mean, I can talk about it and say, you should have skills, and we have started setting up skill industries. The issue is in the good old days of Soviet planning type of model, we knew what kind of industries we wanted, so what kind of skills we wanted. We got our ITIs, terrible mistake, but we modified them. We'll get community colleges and with skills, and NEP now has skills as integrated. The issue is the vibrancy and the evolution is so fast that we don't even know what skills these are. The skill really is to adapt with the newer things. That is a very intangible kind of a skill, not like carpentry or this or that. To cut short, I think I remember again Masherkar talk about his the explosion of innovation and etc. And at the end of it, it was all everyone seemed to be in a shock 4.0 kind of exponential innovative stuff. And I happened to have Narendra Yadav sitting next to me and Vijay Kerkar. And the reason why I'm saying this is not to drop names, but to say how they're. So Narendra turns to me and says, Abhay, this is all scary, right? What will our kids be doing? Where are their jobs? And Kerkar Sahab tells me, says, this is very exciting. You can go and do gardening here if you wanted to. So I was remembering Buddenbrooks, Thomas Mann's book, where, you, in the final evolutionary stage, you turn to a life of music. But to come to your question, I think for a period of time, young people will have to have it difficult. There won't be easy jobs available. You have already forgotten about permanent jobs, which is the way to go. And I don't think young people even want them anymore like we used to. We got the first job, we said, chalo, government ka job mil gaya. Abhi, every year there'll be a set increment, whether I like it or do anything or not. No, nothing to do with performance. At the end of it, when I'm 60 odd, they will give me a shawl and a clock or a cipher or whatever, say what a great job I have done, and I go home. That is a thing of the past, right? I think the solution will have to be, so the jobs are not going to keep pace with growth. Do I sacrifice growth? No, because the tax dividend that will come will allow me to do some social policies that would help. And for the first time, India is in a position now to implement what are called as UBIs, the Universal Basic Income. And my rationalization of this Ladki Bahin, on which all of us like to laugh at, is that this is a partial UBI that is being done. You see? So I think we'll need to take care of people because otherwise it's a dangerous scenario. Because now there are so-called education is there, so learned people are there. If they are let loose on the streets, there's going to be a terrible thing for India from social strife, law and order, and all of the above. So a partial response, not an answer, is I don't see easy solutions of employment going forward for the next few years. Fortunately, demography is helping. More and more, less and less children are being born. So we'll have the other problem of geriatrics and what everyone else in the world is having. Our kids can now go to Germany and other places where they want people to work. So we'll have to think along those lines. We'll have to try and struggle with what kind of and finally, like our Prime Minister said many years ago, not jobs, but job creators, the startups. And we are doing quite well. The younger people in this country seem to be doing hell of a lot of innovation and startups and so on. So I think that's the way. It's not going to be jobs in the old sense. That's my feeling.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a very healthy discussion. I once again thank Shri Pradeep Yadav and Dr. Abhay Pethe for coming and gracing the occasion. Thank you so much. We request all the participants to be seated. We will shortly be beginning with our panel discussion. Thanks for being there.
Okay. I request आसिफ सर उमेश सर सबको बुला लो ना. I request the panelists as well for a group photograph actually. Dr. Asif Rampurawala sir, Dr. Umesh Koyande sir, Sindhu Krishnan ma'am, CEO, please come. Vijay Gowde sir, Vijay sir, and the R&D committee team, Dr. Leena Nair, Dr. Sandeep Khandekar, Dr. Swagatika Nanda, Dr. Ujjwala Sahu. I missed out anyone? No, no. I request all the mentioned people to. We'll quickly take a group photograph, all of you. Right. Dr. Swagatika Nanda. Thank you, sir. त्याच्या संबंधित सर सर पडणार इकडे पडणार पाणी पडणार सर. Dr. Janavi, the medical doctor, they are from DLC. They say the part of त्यामुळे भारतीय शिक्षक होती त्यांनी स्टुडंट्सना जरा वजन द्यायलाच पाहिजे तर दे आर इम्प्रेशनल एज ते जरा केलेलं बरं म्हणूनच क्वेश्चन घेतला. But so much to give to us. I'm working away from academia. So I'm better than writing or not. I'm working with very keen. Yeah. पण माझा मला नंबर देऊ शकतो. हा चालेल. पहिले ते पेशंटला बोलवणार आता तुम्हाला. I think just 2 minutes. You can actually go to washroom. Yeah, sure. No problem. हा चालेल, काय हरकत नाही. अभी ना इन्होंने बोला उमेश, तो फिर विजय सर, उमेश सर, संदीप सर, फिर आपको बुला देंगे 4 लोग. सर तुम्ही तोपर्यंत चालेल. ओके वर्क. अच्छा असं करू का? चालेल. ओके. सब लोग ब्रेक के लिए गए. I told after actually. So should I get the chair this side too? No, I'm okay. Let everybody come. No. We will be beginning with our panel discussion shortly in the next 2 to 3 minutes.
प्रवीण सर बोलले ना का चार्ज केला म्हणून मी बिंदास राहिलो. हेलो.
Sandeep, sir. Okay. ये किसका है? यूजुअली हम रखते हैं ना सर, इनको कुछ लिखने को चाहिए रहता है कभी पर ये एक ही फाइल है। चलेगा ना? थोड़ा फॉर्म में लगेगा थोड़ा पैकिंग के साथ।
यश हाँ हाँ पुढे बघ.
असं म्हणजे नाला 6 वाजले त्यांना नको त्यांना नको हा चला. त्यांना नको नाही त्यांना नको त्या स्टेजवर येणार एकदा तो Hello and welcome back. With the momentum of today's proceedings, we now move to a thought provoking and insightful segment, our panel discussion. The theme for today's panel discussion is Future Ready Cities Integrating Smart Systems for Sustainable and Inclusive Urban Growth. I now invite our esteemed panelists, Dr. Shankar Gowde, Dr. Lata Ghansham Nani, Mr. Manan Bhatt, and our moderator, Dr. Sadaf Hashmi, to kindly come forward to the dais and take their seats. I now invite Professor Vijay Gowde, our Vice Principal, to come on the dais and felicitate Dr. Shankar Gowde. So please put it. A round of applause, please. I now invite Dr. Umesh Koyande, the Chief Operations Officer, to come and felicitate Mr. Manan Bhatt.
I now invite Dr. Sandeep Khandekar sir to come and felicitate Dr. Lata Ghanshyamnani ma'am. Sir, कुठे आहे? Dr. Asif sir, are you here? Ujjwala ma'am, are you there? Okay. I invite our Chief Operation Officer, Ms. Sindhu Krishnan, to felicitate our moderator, Dr. Sadaf Hashmi. It is my privilege to introduce the moderator of our panel discussion, Dr. Sadaf Hashmi, a distinguished academician and an accomplished associate professor of finance for more than 17 years of remarkable experience across academia, research, and corporate training. Dr. Hashmi is a doctorate in finance with expertise spanning banking, fintech, financial innovation, and emerging technological advancements in the financial ecosystem. She is an empaneled trainer with globally recognized institutions, including CFA Institute, ICSI, and NSE's Learning and Development Division. Her collaborations with eminent industry leaders such as Tata AIA Life Insurance, HDFC Mutual Fund, UTI Mutual Fund, and First Rank Bank reflect her strong professional grounding and industry relevance. A prolific researcher, Dr. Hashmi has contributed significantly to contemporary financial literature. Her work explores the intersections of AI driven finance, robo advisory systems, blockchain applications, fintech innovation, and financial inclusion. She has reviewed scholarly works for reputed universities and leading publishers while consistently mentoring young researchers and aspiring entrepreneurs. With her visionary thinking, analytical depth, and commanding presence, Dr. Hashmi truly embodies the spirit of today's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warming welcoming our moderator for the session, Dr. Sadaf Hashmi. I now request Dr. Sadaf to introduce the panelists and take the session ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I welcome all of you to our panel discussion. I thank the management to organize this panel discussion as well as the conference, which is on such a leading and aspiring topic. So before we head start, I think it's important to dive into the very valuable profile of our panelists who are here with us. It'll also help you to understand what kind of questions you would like to ask them towards the end of the panel discussion. So without further delay, I think I would just give a few opening remarks about our topic. What are smart cities if we all think about? Smart cities focus on some important areas, which include digital government, sustainable urban planning, technological integration. I know we all are talking about AI at this point in time, but as technology evolves, today it's artificial intelligence, tomorrow it could be another one, like we all are hearing a lot of buzz about quantum computing and world-leading infrastructure. Certain initiatives in these leading smart cities, which form the global benchmark, include data strategy, open data governance. Very simple. I'm sure you all must be having some two-wheelers or four-wheelers. And if in case we have any violations, if we exceed our speed limit, can't we see our violation on the app? We can even see how much fine we are supposed to pay. That's like that's a very good example of an open data governance, right? That you see in today's time. Ask your parents if they had this kind of a thing maybe 5 years or 10 years before. It wasn't there. Second is the blockchain technology, the transactions on blockchain. And today we're going to have discussions around the central bank digital currency, citywide digital operating systems through the Internet of Things sensors, predictive analytics. Some examples that you all should look at as students for smart cities, which we have one in India, is the GIFT City. I'm sure all of you must have heard about it. Then you also have Dubai having several models of such smart cities. Then we also have one which is coming up in Saudi, which is called as the NEOM. And then one in Japan, which is called as the Woven, which is being developed by Toyota. There are a lot of these YouTube videos which are available. So as students, I'm sure that you can take some time out and look into the models of each one of them in terms of the urban planning and infrastructure. Now, moving to the introduction of our esteemed panelist, let me start with Dr. Lata Ghanshyamani. She is an ophthalmologist by her profession, director of Census Eye and ENT Hospital, co-founder of the NGO Nisarg Foundation, member of Women for Climate Cohort 21. She is also the alumni of the prestigious Grant Medical College and Sir JJ Group of Hospitals, Mumbai. Some of the projects under her foundation include the Green Pharmacy, safe disposal of pharmaceutical drugs from various households. Moving on to Saki, which is a project for menstrual health, sustainable menstrual products. Know Your Plastic. This was an interesting one. Conscious consumer for plastic, which we are certainly not. Praram, Zero Waste Educational Institutions and Road Safety. Dr. Lata, if you could just give a little bit of insight about your journey and inspiration for Nisarg as an opening remark.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so glad to be invited today here. The only reason I love to come to these panel discussion is because the audience here is the youth of India. And I'm in my mid of my life. So I understand what is the importance. If I was given 20 years earlier this insight, I think a lot of things could have changed. It's not that I've but these insights, if I had earlier on my life, probably I would have chosen not ophthalmology, but public medicine. So certain things when you are in your form, your career, not only professionally more happy, but financially also. So thank you for having me here. With regards to my journey, as a traditional child, you're brought up in a family where you have to do certain things, follow your parents' dreams, then make them those your dreams, and then settle down. And then probably you get some time in your life where you start reflecting on what exactly, where are you living and what is the society. Coming from a health area, always we are in the mode of treating. Prevention has never been so much core in our curriculum. Now, having said that, when you see the multiple issues which a city or any place is dealing with, is core health related. We all work or earn basically for two things, so that our children are educated well and we have enough of funds to take care of us when we fall sick, right? Those are the two things. If those two things are taken care of by somebody, then I think we will enjoy our minute of living here today. We would not be stressed on how do I have to save money for those things. So it is so essential in us that health is very primarily important, and all the infrastructure around should be around that focus point. So waste was one part which closely affected me, because mismanagement of waste is one of the causes for all health issues, all the pollution, all the environmental deterioration. So my journey started from waste management. My learning started there. All the projects evolved from there. And now we are working at niche place where we are talking about menstrual health and hygiene and the menstrual waste. So basically waste which nobody is looking at, making money out of waste, which is incinerable or which is what you mentioned are all of those
Thank you, Dr. Lal. We'll move to introduce our next panelist, that is Dr. Shankar Gowde. He is the head for technology and cybersecurity at DAM Capital Advisors. He is in financial service industry. Currently, he's working with leading investment banking and brokerage house as the head. And he's also the winner of several prestigious awards, which include the most innovative 100 CTOs in India, Security Transformation Leader of the Year, Cyber Warriors of India, Data Gen Next Gen Digital Leader Award, Quantic Cyber Security Excellence Award. These are just a few. The list was very, very long. I don't think that these few awards can just define what his caliber is. So, sir, just some opening remarks on how cybersecurity has evolved in all these years.
Okay, so before we touch upon the topic of discussion, I'm being asked to talk about the cybersecurity. So I know this cybersecurity is being there since long, but over a period of time, the threat actors had become very intelligent than what we think today. So we have to be always on the toes, never know what could have happened. So there are various technologies in place, tools in place, policies, procedures in place. We have to just envisage what could happen to us, to our organization, to our data, and we have to start protecting. But end of the day, doing all those things, you cannot guarantee you are 100% protected. So you have to, again, be ready for recovery part as well. You have to be ready for the insurance part as well, the cyber insurance part. Well, you have to be ready for the worst case, prepared for the worst case, and be ready that it could happen any day. So cyber security is a nightmare today, and one has to be only prepared. You cannot guarantee that you are fully prepared.
Thank you, sir. Next, I move on to introducing Mr. Manan Bhatt. He's a Vice President, Strategy Consultant at Yes Bank, focused on transformative solutions. With over a decade of experience in the banking industry, Mr. Manan specializes in driving innovation and transformation through strategic consulting and digital solutions. He believes in a holistic approach to consulting, one that combines analytical rigor and creative thinking. He is an alumni of the esteemed IIM Bangalore. Projects at Yes Bank executed under his leadership include the International Financial Service Center, the Central Bank Digital Currency, value chain advisory development for the electric vehicles, at Smart Mobility Solutions, strategic interventions to digitization to develop a smart city ecosystem. These are just a few. Again, the list for various such projects was pretty long, but I would request Mr. Manan himself to share some insights on these transformative projects.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. The topic is, I give some background to this, but this is a story. So during my earlier avatar, I was a management consultant and working very closely with different government organizations. Used to work on extensively on infrastructure projects, urban infrastructure, industrial corridors and all. During that time, the few things actually, I've noticed, particularly regarding this urban local bodies that we talk about currently. Across India, the urban local bodies are being divided into three major segments: the corporations and the municipal councils and the committees. Okay. When we look at all three segments of urban local bodies, and we consider the first part, there is a municipal corporation, which are very large, and when I was just looking at their financing part and the financial understanding, it was pretty shocking to me because very few, I mean, we can count on our fingers, very few municipal corporations in India were actually ready with the accounting standards that particularly useful or everybody's adopted across the globe. So there was one big example that came in 2018, government of India took this particular initiative and asked large urban local bodies, 435 in India, to undertake rating of their financials. And out of 435, only 35 municipal corporations were passed with an investable grade rating. Now, in a financial terms, when you say, I have a rating, like in just USA had the highest rating in the world, AAA, which was just got downgraded. Similarly, every municipal corporation has a similar rating done by the rating agencies in India. Only 35 of those where people could invest. Remaining 400 plus were struggling with their rating. Now, when I say rating, why they were struggling? So there were different reasons to it. Some say they do not have revenue generation technology. They do not understand what is revenue generation. Their expenditure is too high. The one particular problem with all these 435 plus municipal corporations were none were following the accounting standards. Now you understand this is the basic issue. And particularly when, as a student, when you join MBA or maybe even in your graduation, the first point that is being taught to you is the accounting, how you should do that, how we can calculate, how we can understand where two sides are matching, correct? Now, that particular standard was lacking. Now, when you look at this entire urbanization and the discussion around that, if the financial health is not good, particularly none or no other development will work in that particular region. And in India, I just give you one particular data point here. Urbanization or urban areas are one. But the next two urban areas are the next in thing. Okay. So by 2030, there's an estimate that 210 million population would be there in the next two urban areas. Now, 210 is nearly 15 to 16% of the current population. So you can understand, if we are talking about the municipal corporations in the urban areas, we should now think about the next two urban areas as well. And probably in my the earlier session, Dr. Yadav was here, particularly when somebody asked about MMRDA. Now, what MMRDA is and what MMRDA can do for urban as well as the next two urban areas, probably you will start understanding that in near future.
Also, Mr. Manan, I think all these years for India, we always look down upon population in terms of an outburst. But I think now also it's becoming a kind of an advantage because we have consumers and also we have the workforce. So do you think, like you said, 15 to 16%, but that population, if channelized well, can definitely, I'm sure you will agree on that point.
No, so I'm absolutely agree with you on that particular point, because see, the youth or particularly the population will help you. But it's a two sides of a coin. One side always tells you that there's a hope, there's a positive side to it. But when you look at it, how this positive side can be made or can be, utilized for a better future, that is very important. Now, let me give you another example into this particular point. If you look at areas like, so there are currently the talk about 2030 Commonwealth Games will be held in India, particularly in Ahmedabad.
Right.
Now you understand how Ahmedabad has grown over the years. Okay, it's not a metro city. It was not a metro city a few years ago. Now it's a metro city. Now how that has grown. So Ahmedabad was a very small city and what is limited to very smaller sections. And if anyone has gone to Ahmedabad, they must have understood that the heart of Ahmedabad was earlier area called Ambawadi. Okay. Expansion happened, certain things have gone right. Government came in, government changed after 2001, 2002. Cities started expanding themselves. Okay. Then the entire city center moved to CG Road. Then government took a step that they understood that Ahmedabad is now getting very crowded. So what they did, the first step they did was they changed the capital of the state from Ahmedabad to Gandhinagar. But Gandhinagar was still a kind of a village. There was no infrastructure, nothing was there. So the idea came to somebody in the government and they said, why not develop Gandhinagar and Ahmedabad as a twin city? And they started working towards that. Okay. The first step was they started developing a connectivity between Gandhinagar and Ahmedabad. They started doing it. Okay. Today, this entire city center has moved to a place called Thaltej. Thaltej was a village 10 years ago. Today, it's the city center of Ahmedabad. Okay. Now, from there, Ahmedabad current city center, from there to Ahmedabad station is 30 minutes. From there to Gandhinagar is 40 minutes. Now, again, because of the Commonwealth Games, the things are actually moving in the same, in that particular zone. The infrastructure development is happening in such a manner that now that particular city center is moving away from Thaltej towards Gandhinagar. Now, why Gandhinagar? So the government of Gujarat, what they did, they started developing, forget about twin cities, they said it's a tri-city. So GIFT City that you spoke about, Gandhinagar, GIFT City and Ahmedabad. The junction is called Vaishno Devi, the region called Vaishno Devi. So now the entire city center is moving there. Around that particular city center, the entire Commonwealth infrastructure will come in. Now, how this has happened? This has happened through multiple initiatives on multiple levels. Financing is part one. Similarly, on the social side as well. And the third is more and importantly on the technology side. So on the financing side, government of Gujarat, particularly with the Municipal Corporation of Ahmedabad, what they did, they started undertaking certain initiatives at their end. First, change to global accounting standards, started creating certain monetization things through their own assets that is available. Third, and which is particularly in India, it's a common problem, municipal corporations don't understand their own revenue as well. That particular sense, AMC started prepping that up. Today, AMC is one of the best municipal corporations in India in generating their own municipal revenue. When I say municipal revenue means property tax, water tax. The second point, social infrastructure. You see, you go social places they have created. Hospitals are there. Probably in Ahmedabad city itself, there are 9 municipal hospitals, all are super specialty hospitals. So the way they see that the population is moving, they've started creating social infrastructure around that. Now, again, in terms of mobility, so roads are very good. When in 2007 or 8, when the first BRTS started there, and today is the only BRTS which is profitable. Okay. Before that, almost in 5 cities, BRTS was. So what they did differently, instead of creating a special bus line on the sides of the road, they created in the middle of the road. Okay. How it helps? It helps 2 ways. When you create on the sides, you particularly can't develop anything on the sides because you need place for bus stops, you need place for pedestrian people, right? And once you have a BRTS stop there, people will start parking their vehicles nearby. When you have everything in the middle of the road, you actually save on all these fronts. You just need to create a kind of a connectivity between sides of the road and the middle of the road. So on that particular front, they did a fantastic job. Secondly, the psyche of the people in Ahmedabad was that they always used to have their own vehicle. Because everything started moving far from their own place. Okay. And the municipal corporation started building connectivity to that. So now metro is there, BRTS is there. Buses are doing really well. So connected to each and every part. So when we speak about last mile connectivity, now they are providing this way. So if you start understanding that how to use the potential of the youth, you will start understanding that youth will definitely help you. Now, in all these talks, there is one particular data point is Ahmedabad, the GDP of Ahmedabad, just the GDP of Ahmedabad is earlier it was just a 11% of the GDP of Gujarat. Today, GDP of Ahmedabad is 22% of GDP of Gujarat. Fairly developed state. Agriculture is doing great from so many years. Still, this particular urbanization has actually helped and grown the GDP of Gujarat by almost 3 percentage points. So in a way, when you start optimizing your own resources, including your youth, you start seeing results to that.
So I think that's a great example of having smart city, and at the same time, it's profitable as well. And you can see it's happening in our own country, India. And in fact, with that, Mr. Manan has also answered my first question, that how these smart cities can actually accelerate the economic growth of our country. You all must be studying that already the projections for the next year, 2026, are out. And these projections for many countries and nations are not looking good. We are fortunate actually to be in India, that the projection for India is good. But I would like to ask Dr. Lata and Dr. Shankar that according to you all, how smart cities could accelerate the economic growth and what can be done?
So I'm not in sync with this smart city. Whatever examples were given and whatever the keynote speaker sir had said, what exactly is smart city for me, a person who lives in the city? Ask them. Who are the corporations to decide what is the definition of smart city? For me, my smart city I should be able to walk without getting knocked off by any vehicle. My footpath, I should not have fall down, have a fracture there because of that. When I come back home, I should have electricity and running water. When I breathe air, I should not fearlessly be able to breathe. And all my centralized services, which a ULB should be providing, should be easily accessible. They should be easily accountable and dealt with. This is what I would want my smart city to offer me. I don't know what is a technology. I don't know what is a GDP. I don't know anything, because majority of us are not from that space. For me, a smart city means it is letting me live and do my work easily. This is a simple citizen, my definition for a smart city. So if you put these parameters, let's look at every city. How is it performing for its solid waste management, for its water, for its road, for its connectivity, for its accountability कि मेरा रास्ते के यहाँ पे खड्डा है, इसको ठीक करना है तो किसको बात करूँ? I have a stretch of road which I want to walk down in the night. There are no lamps. I am so scared to walk on that footpath. How do I get all of this and make my city livable? Once I start able to live, I will be able to generate my livelihood. So I personally feel all the talk should be around how is it that we are going to address these issues, and let's keep it very simple. ये problem है, इसका solution ये है. City is made by whom? By its citizens. Citizens have to be in the forefront to identify their problems and get it addressed by the right representatives. So the bureaucrats, the ULB, they keep transferring. They don't know what is the challenge of that city. It is the citizens who know what is the problem in their city, and getting them to ask the right questions or give them the right platform is the way it should go. Otherwise, honestly, as a practicing doctor, I would have enjoyed practicing my profession. Why would I come and sit in a panel here and talk about what do I want if it was already given to me? So we need to really ask, what is a smart city? It's not IT. It is not generating startups. It is, even if it is a startup, is your startup answering a need? Let's try to or are you falsely creating a need? Sometimes you create a need when it is not there also. So understand what is your need, and then bring around solutions around that. So many startups fail because the basic concept is not understood. Just having a startup is a very fancy way of trying to say that, oh, I'm doing something. But do we really need that solution? Are we looking at the right lens? Is there a systems thinking in that? I think those are the vital questions which anybody or everybody should think around when we're talking about smart cities.
Great thinking points. And I think with these parameters that Dr. Lata mentioned, these are simple parameters for even improving productivity in a general person's life. And automatically, if the productivity of the person goes up, it is going to contribute to the economic growth of the nation.
One last point I don't want to take. You mentioned in your start about how good you have an app where you violate your traffic rules and you get your data. My basic question is, why do we violate rules? Why do we need a technology where everybody just follows the rule? So what we need is three things: education, engineering of every service, and last but not the least, good enforcement. If those three come in any of those services, I think, and primarily it has to be education. Why do I need to be caught? I should not be caught only if I just follow the rules. I think it's so simple. We are creating problems and then we are creating solutions which are trying to create. Why are we not just thinking basic? Okay, yes.
One point here. So particularly, I was just since last 2-3 days when 2030 the Commonwealth Games was. So I was just going through certain social media and certain things. One very common question came to the light was that what is the thing that you need to improve in Ahmedabad to host 2030 Commonwealth Games? So everyone was of the same opinion. Civic sense, traffic sense. It's not there. So now particularly when you talk about the urbanization, these two things are really important. I believe so. Unless and until that comes in, whatever changes you bring, whatever infrastructure you create, will have no impact. No, but I think that has created a great impact in Ahmedabad because people were never used to follow traffic rules. Now, at least with this technology, they are following traffic rules. Correct.
Yeah, the problem statement, what Lata said, is exactly in our current scenarios. Just imagine for a while, these problem statements are not there. What you can envisage? Nothing but the smart city. Okay, now how to achieve this? It's very simple. It can be only achieved when there is a greenfield project. It cannot be achieved in existing scenarios. You name it, it is overcrowded, unplanned, lot of problems. Can you still try to achieve and make it as a smart city? No way, you can't. You will require 100 more years. Even then you will not achieve it. So you have to have a greenfield project. The problem starts with the planning stage. The commitment from the government, the policy making. I have read 1000 pages document of a Raigad city where the government wants Raigad city to make a smart city. So there were 100 smart cities planned in the country. Not a single smart city has been done to the expectation as of today, including Ahmedabad, Twin City. Okay, why? The reason is the planning was so huge, the execution was not up to the mark. Take the example of the Raigad city. So much of plan, but let's take example of Foxconn. The industry near Pune, where this bigger organization is supposed to come and do their infrastructure or companies, establishment of their companies and generate the employment, 150,000 employment. And accordingly, the whole city was planned how we can get people, more than 2 lakh, 3 lakh people into that area and how we can plan it. But the company did not come. So I feel GDP or productivity is a byproduct. First and foremost thing is that you have to have a plan which aims citizen as a center point. She rightly said the various problem statement. Just imagine today also when you drive your car late night, the signal stops you. There are no vehicle behind. Still signal stops you because it is working to, in a particular fashion, right? When you drive a car and you put your map, it says that there is a traffic and it will take 45 minutes from one location. Just imagine if the same app tells you that can you start after 30 minutes, still you will reach 10 minutes before your destination. That is a smart. Can the signal says that, oh my God, there is no vehicle alongside that road, you can drive straight. That is a smart. Is there an app to the citizen of that particular smart city where they can lodge their complaint and it straight away goes to the right people who address this and they get the acknowledgement it is done? That's service management I'm talking about. So this is possible when we're talking about one small society, one small building. Just imagine, can we implement this to the whole of the city? If we can because infrastructure, there is a technology, there is a process, and there is a people. This is the planning stage. When you plan, you have to first build the infrastructure. How that infrastructure will work and make it smart, you have to use the technology. Because without technology, you cannot make it. You can build a city, big city, but you cannot build a smart city. You need to have a technology. How to follow that technology? There has to be rules, regulation, procedures, discipline, whether it is the service provider or whether it is the citizen. The process part is there. The people part, they has to be well trained how to use it. They should know what to use it, when to use it. So the training part also plays, the people part plays a very, very important role in this. And to implement all those layers, 4 layers, you have to have a proper governance. When we say governance, all right thing. The question which I asked the earlier speakers, why not integration? It's a basic common sense. I was in Hong Kong, you can roadways, railways, airways, and seaways, all are integrated. Why can't we have this? The New Bombay airport, which has been built. Now they are planning to extend the metro up to New Bombay. Why can't it have been done before? Right? So planning plays a very important, it has to be inclusive planning, integrated planning, commitment from the government, governance, corruption, both hai. So much of corruption in this. I don't see smart cities happening in next 20 years. Thank you.
Okay. So my next question is on, since we are an educational institution, so also we're talking about startups. So how can universities, incubators, city governments, and various stakeholders collaborate to create this seamless pipeline to help in the implementation of the UN Sustainable Goals? And what are the barriers which keep coming? So I think I'll ask Dr. Lata to start this, because as a part of a foundation, I'm sure in implementing different projects, there would be various challenges that might have come. So maybe one of the incidents, if you can share with us.
So what I understand from your question is, how is the educational part, the academia, play an important role in handling the SDG goals? My experience too now, because we interact with a lot of colleges and students because we want interns or we offer internships and we want volunteers. It's all checkbox. Colleges want some checkbox, students want some checkbox. Now we have learned the art of fulfilling those checkbox and still getting our work done. That's all. So lot of good intentions, lot of good thoughts have been done. But I think basically we Indians love to manipulate things and create that jugadu thing of getting out of the whole thing. So you will not, the whole social sector has changed so much in the last 5 years. We formed our NGO in the year 2016 and it's almost 10 years now. It's evolved like a proper corporate space now. And every college has an incubation center. Every place has a mentorship. Everybody is into it. But the quality is missing. Probably too many Everybody wants to solve a problem, but who's listening to us? So I personally feel that we also have to work and creating a platform where we are heard. So all of my projects have so many insights, but I don't have any place to raise those issues or get it addressed. So it's frustrating for the students and the person who's working because it's not heard. So right now the stage is that when we were saying ki 200 years maybe nahi hoga, yeah, this is the way we are going, it will not happen. So how will it happen? Is when the youth participates in the system. They become the corporators, they become the bureaucrats. When they come in, they have the power to make a change faster than this process which we are right now going through as private players or as a not-for-profit. And as a not-for-profit also, you cannot become a social activist. Nobody will let you work. So the youth has to invest in saying how their voice can be heard, for which I know politician is a very, but you need to get into that place because only through those ways you can see a faster and a better change happening in India. So picking up a politician or working, I think that is a scene with academics. Because you are now skilled, you should participate instead of sitting and trying to, like how I'm trying to give knowledge, ye karo, ye karo. Nobody's listening. So we need to have that more.
Yeah, I think it's not.
Yes.
Yeah, Shankar sir.
Just add one thing, how many of you are worried about the air quality nowadays you are facing? You know how much is that AQI as of now in Mumbai? 350 plus. So are we talking about smart city with this AQI? Yesterday I was in my car, I just brought down my window shield and suddenly AQI showed me 350. And then I have to bring it back to bring, 50 or less than 50. So I don't walk on the streets. I try to not to walk, without face mask. So just when you all are, throughout the day, 8 hours, 9 hours, you are on the roads, either going to school or back to homes and all this. So what kind of citizens we are creating? We are talking big about smart cities. But what about the existing? The Mumbai is the hub, the business hub is known for, many industries, offices, business, export, import, so many things. So many people all over the world come here, work here. But what is their life? So health, again, I'm touching to the point, health. If you are able to, address the health issue of your citizens in that city, then you can call it as a smart city.
Can I add to that? So everybody raised their hands about the trouble they have with the air quality. My question to everybody who has raised the hand that they had, what action did you take? Did you write to your corporator? Did you write to the pollution control board? Did you do anything? Did you write a simple article?
Inclusiveness, what she's referring to, inclusiveness.
Did you do any action for the problem? So simple questions. How many of you all have put an RTI for a problem which is not your personal, but a city's problem? Can I have anybody raise a hand and tell me any RTI about any data which is not for your personal, but for your city's benefit, which obviously is your personal benefit at the end of the day? Anybody? Does anybody? Thank you so much. Do you know your current ward in charge commissioner's name? Do you know, have you gone and addressed any water related or waste related issues? So this is what I'm talking about, youth participation. Unless we do that, if you sit here and make a startup and digitally capture, yes, that is there. But that kind of a participation is the need of the hour. They should sit up in the chair and understand, oh, I cannot yet be lax about it. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think Mr. Manan, if you can also highlight about green infrastructure investment, because this is also renowned all across the world and being from the BFSI segment. So how this can also contribute in the long run?
Hello. Yeah. So when we talk about the financing particularly for the municipal corporations or the urban local bodies. Efforts were actually put into that, and Government of India has encouraged all ULBs to go to the market and raise funds. Now, how it helps? It helps two ways. First is that actually makes them accountable, because you are going to the market and market will definitely fund you based on your own discipline, right? So that makes them disciplined, and then they are accountable to the market as well. So they said, let's go and raise municipal bonds. Okay. And while raising the municipal bonds, they said, we will pay you 13 crore for every 100 crores that you raise, up to 26 crores. So the first tranche, many municipal corporations came and they raised 200 crores. Straight away, they got 26 crores from the Government of India. So now, then Government of India understood that at least municipal corporations are making some effort in making themselves accountable. So they said, okay, now next round should be, you raise every 100 crores, we'll pay you 10 crores, up to 20 crores. But now whenever you raise any municipal bond, it should be a green bond. And when I say green bond means, the simple definition is the funds you raise has to be utilized for the green purposes. Now, a broader definition for the green purpose is, it's not you go and, rope trees and other things, but you either improve the waste management, you improve the air quality, you improve the water quality, reduce the water pollution, things like that. So the first, in this particular sense, since the smart city started in 2017, when the first bond was raised by Pune Municipal Corporation, that was for the green purpose. Though it was not considered as green bond, it was used for green purpose. They raised 200 crores for mitigating the water issues for the entire Pune municipal region. Issue is, even though Mula and Mutha river passes near Pune, but the actual origin and the origin of that particular river is now drying up. So there's a probability that within next 5 to 7 years, 10 years, the Pune municipal region will start facing the water scarcity. So they wanted to bring water from 35 kilometers away from Pune, and they wanted to build this entire pipeline so that water can be brought in, and for the Pune municipal region, the water can be provided easily. They raised 200 crores for almost 3 to 4 years. They did not work around that. Okay. So 200 crores was just lying with them in the bank. What they did, simply it was raised at around 7.2%. They put it into bank, and on that they made 8%. So they net they made 0.75% interest. I mean, they earned 0.75 interest on that. Now look at the example of Indore Municipal Corporation. Indore Municipal Corporation played a different role. They also raised 200 crores, correct? What they did, they started monetizing their own assets. The first and the foremost part, almost all cities across India are facing, is that in one part of the city, you will see there's a mountain of waste. Okay, so many years people were collecting waste and then they used to dump somewhere. Indore Municipal Corporation started clearing those dump. Now, dump clearing is not easy, because for so many years it is just turned into, in different form, different shapes. So they started utilizing this particular dump into multiple parts. So first is energy generation. Wherever they could just see it's it's just a sand. So they started converting that into a kind of, you can call, they started putting into different farms so that it can help the soil. The third area is wherever they could found this plastics, glass, such materials, it takes longer to degrade. They started recycling it. The way that entire mountains are cleared. Okay. Now, through this particular activity, addition to this municipal bond that they raise, they also started floating carbon credits. Okay. Through the carbon credit, they started earning it. So from 2026, now Government of India is actually starting a carbon credit market in India. And as per the SEBI guidelines, top 3,000 companies in India will have to get into the sustainability rating done for themselves. And for top 100 companies, they have a carbon, what you can call carbon targets. So they have to reduce their carbon footprints. Okay. And through this carbon credit market, they will be able to trade this. So which Indore Municipal Corporation did in 2020 or so. That the first green bond in a perfect sense they created. Now even the PCMC, Pune Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, they are also coming up with their green bond. So you start understanding when we say smart city, when we say urbanization, more or less the kind of infra projects or the infrastructure projects that are being envisaged are somewhere touching the green side of the financing definition, green financing definition. Okay. Absolutely true. Things are not, I mean, whatever they do, it's not enough. We agree. Because infrastructure development takes time. Population increase doesn't take time. Okay. When we start, so the similar question what Sir asked, why in India, I mean, why particularly in Mumbai, we don't see the integrated transportation? The answer Dr. Pethe gave that the kind of land rates that we see in India, in particular Mumbai, it's so high that wherever they, particularly it's feasible for them. And now feasible is a very specific term I use because feasible means possible plus convenience. Okay. So they created that particular outlet or the inlet for that specific transportation mode. Okay. I give you a very simple example. In Mumbai, when Metro 2 and Metro 7 was started in somewhere in 2020, maybe around that particular period, 2018, 19, for almost for 1 year, they did not get right of way approvals. Right of way approval is, this is the way, this is the road. We want your approval so that we can work on this particular road and we can block this road so that we can start developing that particular infrastructure. It's the simplest part. Any municipal corporation should give it. Okay. But for 1 year, they did not get it. Now you understand the implications of that. Because of which, what happened was the that metro development took time, part one. People face a lot of hassles on the Western Express Highway, anyone on the link road. That is part two. Third part, it increases the pollution. This is part three. Now, why we say green development is required? And one of the major argument to even to the courts, legal procedures for Metro 3 was, even though it is not viable project, it's too costly. So metros across the globe are too costly. And particularly in the financing terms, when we say IRR, interest rate of return, internal rate of return that we see was the highest for Mumbai when Metro 1 was projected, was of 8. And 8 it's a loss-making project. But particularly when the Metro 3 government, when that particular created at IRR, it came around 11 or something like that because of the it is passing through a very busy region. They gave another term, economic IRR. How it is actually helping the economy and the environment. So how it is helping is, particularly it is reducing the stress on the road, part one. And secondly, when you reduce the stress on that, you also start reducing, or you see a lot of impact of it in reducing the pollution and other stuffs. But the development of Metro 3 took so long that the ill effect of that particular thing, that particular development actually increase the population in that particular region. So my point here is that whenever we are developing some infrastructure projects, at the same time, we also need to undertake the urban development norms in such a manner that because of the development of one particular asset like connectivity, the geography in that particular region doesn't get changed. And in this particular case, it's changed drastically. The population influx is so much because of this particular connectivity coming up that it has actually created a different impact in the entire region.
If I may add about carbon credit points, which you're saying. Because we are working in the waste space, I can comment on that in that sense. There's a lot of greenwashing happening around it. So there is one more additional implication on the private people, that they have to reduce their carbon footprint and they have to show it, and they have to go to a third party who does an ESG impact assessment, and then they say that they are zero or carbon neutral. But I know the intentions are right, but it's all happening in the air or on the paper. If you really go down to see whether there is a recycling happening, whether there is a collection happening, nothing. So currently, Mumbai city, because we are very closely working with the BMC, 7,000 metric ton of mixed waste is the daily waste created by the city of Mumbai. I'm talking MMR region, that's the 25 wards. Of that, how many do we have centralized and decentralized waste management locations? We have Kanjur, Deonar, which is actually been stopped, and minuscule small MRFs, minuscule small biomethane plants, and around 10, 14 plasma centers. Same with the biomedical waste management. One company which handles the entire city's biomedical waste. So you look at the population, we are 23.5 billion, right? And 7,000 metric tons, and we are not able to solve any of those problems. Gladly, for last 6 months, we are working with BMC. We have picked up the household waste, that is the sanitary, diaper, medical waste, the waste which is contaminated. This service is open for all the citizens, pan city, free service. Within a day, they will come and pick up the BMC. So we have created their dashboards, we have created their route maps, we have done capacity building of the BMC staff, because they themselves didn't know what is hazardous waste, what should go in what happens, because there's no time for them. We have to understand the challenges even the BMC faces. Now, election coming in, they are given the duty of voters filter. Then they're given duty of something else. So everything goes, priority changes. So it is so difficult to do capacity building of the actual staff so that they can deliver the things. So it's a very complex thing. Why I'm coming back to this point is, I didn't know when I was sitting in my chair and doing my work that there are so many gaps. Once you take up a problem and you start going deeper into it, you realize the economics, the gaps, the way the money from where it comes. So a real-time problem, if you start trying to look at it with a very good lens, you will know so many places where you could participate to close those gaps, which in our case, we are doing for the waste management. Now, right now, we are working with bulk waste generators. So any society or any commercial establishment, school, colleges, who create more than 100 kgs of mixed waste, we are targeting them. Now, we are targeting means what? The Ministry of Environment has released the rules of SWM, wherein these are the places, those are the generators who should be made accountable for the waste, for which a ULB can apply a user fee. Now, if you apply a user fee, they go to the corporators, they'll say, we don't want to pay. The corporators will say, oh no, you cannot charge the citizen. The citizen is creating waste in tonnage. There is no end. So we are not trying to close the tap. We are not trying to increase the number of buckets. Both are not functional. And then we are sitting at the same place. So bioremedial is what you were talking about, removing. So if you try to remove Deonar, they have given it outsourced. So it is such a mess with so much of lead, because batteries, cells, everything is such a complex. If you go to that zone near Deonar, that is Chembur's Govandi area, the lifespan of the man living there is not even 45 years. I'm talking about Mumbai city, where somebody in some place in South Bombay can live up till 90 years. And across 15 kilometers across, the lifespan of that man is not even 40 years. So this is the disparity. This is the complexity. There are so many gaps that all of y'all, the young youth, can look into and try to address it. You will make money, you will make name, you will make everything. But you need to know where that gap is, for which you need to pick up a topic and understand it in depth.
By the way, this is for the youth particularly. So if you start looking at waste, understand waste is gold across the globe, particularly when you understand the waste. Take the example of Apple. Okay. Apple is actually targeting themselves to go carbon neutral by 2032. How? Now Apple is collecting their old phones. What they are doing? They are recycling it. They are extracting rare earth materials. They are extracting silver, gold out of those older mobile phones. And they are reutilizing those rare earth materials, silver and gold, in the newer mobile phones that they are currently manufacturing. Understand, waste management, water management, wastewater management, or a solid waste management is actually a gold. It's a huge, huge industry around this. There's a company called Umicore, UMICORE. It's a Brussels-based company, Belgium-based company. It's a $3 billion company. Their job is just to recycle digital waste, nothing else. It's a $3 billion company. Just imagine. For the youth, I'm again telling you, waste is gold. Look around.
I'm sorry. I would like to interfere here. Please don't make it as a value addition. Waste is waste. If you try to look at making money out of waste, then you're looking at the very wrong space, because you're encouraging increase in the waste generation.
I'll give you a different example.
Also
I'll give you a different side to this. Okay, Mumbai.
Sorry, just last one.
Sure.
We are looking at waste as a problem. Why are we adding money and livelihood to it?
I'll give
Even
you my perspective.
when we talk about waste,
we
talk about uplifting the rack picker. Why should he do only the waste work? So
I will give you my perspective to this.
I think I'll just intervene out here.
Just a simple point, a small point here. Just need to understand. See, Mumbai is particularly facing a great issue here. Waste management. There are major two problems. First is population. We are generating very heavy amount of solid waste, part one. Part two, there is no place to dump this. Understand, we have no place to dump this. Devnar is done. Gorai was done years ago. Okay, now we have no place. Few years ago, Municipal Corporation of Mumbai has actually come out with a specific tender suggesting that we want someone to come here and collect the waste, recycle it, we will pay you. And it 1,400 rupees per kg. Municipal Corporation of MCGM was ready to pay 1,400 rupees. They could not identify a location. Then MMRDA came into picture. MMRDA said, let's look for entire MMR region. Okay. They could identify a specific location where? At Talegaon. Now you imagine somebody is actually picking waste in Vasai or Virar and going Talegaon to dump that particular dump every day. Just imagine the economics around that. Doesn't work. Okay? If you don't start monetizing these things, there is no end to this particular problem. And exactly when we think about smaller pockets where waste are being generated, start understanding even the smaller pockets can be, cleaned very easily with different smaller solutions. containerization of your solutions are very important. Think on those lines. And particularly why I'm associating it with some sort of a monetization or some sort of financing to it, because it has the actual, force to give you a sense that there's a solution is required and you will start working towards that. Without financing, without giving any monetization return to this, people or youth will not do that. We are not Japan, where from 2 or 3-year-old students are actually in schools and they've started teaching civic sense. We don't teach that. Even in colleges, we don't teach any civic sense to anyone. Absolutely, but it takes time. It won't happen tomorrow. Ma'am, it won't happen tomorrow. It takes 10 years, 15 years. A student who is in nursery or junior KG, when he reaches 15 years afterwards.
So, okay, I'll just conclude this. End of the day, there's citizen of this city. Most of the time what we have spent on the discussion was on the process part, okay, which we are not bothered about. We should not, unless we are directly related to it. As a citizen, what we are supposed to do, that we have to do it. What we are supposed to get, that we have to get it. Clean air, potable water, clean roads. This is what we are expecting. Leave aside smart city. Leave aside smart city. Can I breathe clean air? I was in Australia a few months back. My niece said, Mama, idhar ye nahi hai, filter nahi hai, direct nal se pee lo pani. Literally, the same water used for cleaning utensil and drinking. The road on which her car was parked, for 2 days. The third day morning we went there and I said, so who has cleaned this car? He said, nobody, we haven't. Because the air was dust free. वो कार मैं पार्किंग में भी रखता हूँ मेरे बिल्डिंग के, तो सवेरे मुझे क्लीन करना पड़ता है. तो just imagine the amount of dust I am breathing every day. I cannot drink water from filter if I don't service after 3 months. So end of the day, what we are expecting, these are basics thing. Leave aside process part. That is your bureaucrat, municipal corporation. We pay tax. 50 रुपया ज़्यादा ले लो, है ना? But give this service to us. Service management. This was I was talking about. If you are able to give these services to your citizen, then you are part of the smart city. Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you all the panelists. I think just key takeaways from this. The ownership lies on us. I think we are now going in a phase of entitlement. I think this is going to be the dearth of all the thoughts. If we want a better future, the ownership lies on us. This was a session which brought you some awareness. Now it's our time to collaborate with various NGOs, with maybe even the service providers, as Shankar sir mentioned. But if we want something, I think as rightly I feel is the ownership, the buck starts with me. If I know what I should be doing, I think there could be a better future around us. Thank you so much, everyone, for being attentive. And I think I'll call ma'am to give further instructions.
Q&A. Questions? Yeah, and we'll just take up, I think, 2 or 3. Yeah, so the panel is open for questions.
Yeah.
We cannot take many, but maybe 2 or 3 are acceptable.
Questions, yeah. Yeah, I think that student there, can you just pass the mic?
Yeah. Yeah.
So good morning to everyone. I would like to ask question to Manan sir actually, since I feel he had been to the smart cities multiple times, or maybe have knowledge about it. How they are also looking at let's say beggars or homeless peoples. Since I feel that these kind of problems are also not so to say looked at, or maybe they are overlooked in certain conditions. So what are the certain options or the policies which you may know?
Okay, I'll just give you some little bit some small story around this particular thing, right? So a few years ago, so there was a wealthy person who was particular in Colombia, who was roaming around in that in his city. Then he found that there are a lot of people who are particularly staying on the road itself, and they are earning through begging and other things. So the solution that particularly came to his mind was first. So what he saw as well in the city as well, that particular city is pretty dirty. It's not clean. Okay, part one. Part two is land is available. A lot of land is available, and other assets are already there. Water is plenty. There is no issue with that. Electricity is okay, fine, because they are used to. Colombia is, not a great country per se, but they are okay with that. So this person actually became the mayor of the city. And then what he did, he actually started asking all these begging people to first stop drinking. Okay. So what he did, he actually levied penalty on drinks. Whoever gives you, who is selling liquor, will have to pay additional amount to the city corporation. Okay. That actually reduced these people who are actually going and buying anything, because they did not have that much money to pay. Then he asked all these people to started creating housing for them. And housing was kind of a hostel kind of a thing, so that if you are alone, you stay with somebody. If you are a couple or a family, so there's a accommodation is given it to you. So this is part to this. So he has started solving this particular issue. Then the third part, then he said, yeah, city is too dirty. Now let's start cleaning it. So city corporation started asking these people, what are you doing? He said, I am doing nothing. Okay, come, participate here. So participation started with first part, cleaning the city. Second start, creating recreational spaces, gardens. Similarly, when these people are actually working, they started earning something out of that. So city corporation started paying them on that part. Okay. On the third line, now everything is done, everything is created. Now what to do? Because these people are still lying there. So he came up with a different idea. He said, this is our urban space, very important. Create a boundary around it. So it's not an actual boundary, not wall or something like that, but it's a boundary. Then he said, this is urban area. Now let's start creating next to urban area. So what is important? So he brought certain smaller industries there. He asked private people to come and invest there. And then those people who have worked here, they found some sort of a job there. Now they are used to doing something, right? So the morning they woke up and they said, "Arey, we don't have anything to do. No, this is not right." So the kind of sense that has been created in them, they started working there. Okay. Now this is not possible everywhere, I tell you. So there has to be innovative solutions around that. Okay. Now in Indore or maybe Ujjain, both are smart cities, correct? Ujjain is kind of a temple city. Everybody goes there, Mahakal and all. Municipal corporation, what they did. So currently now they are completely revamping the Mahakal city, Mahakal Mandir. Okay. And you find many beggars around that. There's no solution to that. So what they did, they started creating shop spaces, and they give these shops a smaller space to these people so that they can do something. They can start earning, So it is important that we start creating something, and everything. I mean, personally, this is my understanding is everything. You cannot take away financing out of anything that you do. Somewhere in some sort of different levels, you have to create some sort of a monetization opportunity for everyone so that their interest remains in that particular activity. Without that, there will be no interest.
Actually, sir, that's true for the state of UP as well after the Ram temple being set up there, because we used to have a lot of people from the state of UP coming and finding their livelihood here. But if you observe, you will see that now that migration has stopped. So providing employment.
There was so at my building, there was a watchman used to be there who was from Prayagraj, Allahabad. Before 2021, after COVID 2023, he went home and did not come back. So I just called him up. अरे क्या हो गया? सर, यहाँ पे तो हमारा कुंभ आ रहा है ना. So मैंने यहाँ पर मेरा टेंट बनाने का बिजनेस शुरू किया है. Now he just called me a few days ago and he said, "Sir, हम तो बहुत बड़ा कमाए यहाँ पर तो हमारे कुंभ में." So that's understanding how different governments, they are actually creating different opportunities at different stages, different levels. If they start considering their citizens at the core of that particular festival or that particular activity, because of this Kumbh, the entire economy of Prayagraj has just seen the complete paradigm shift. Though the other sense are still not there. So it is not actually taking, the transformational shift as such, but in terms of their earning, there's seen a complete shift.
I think one last question. Anyone wants to ask?
Anyone questions? No?
So,
Okay,
the
then.
vote of thanks, yeah.
Okay, you do it and then I'll form.
I would really like to thank all the panelists for their valuable insights. And I hope you found this as an engaging and informative session. And thank you all for your time and attention. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. It gives me immense pleasure to render the vote of thanks on behalf of the R&D committee. So thanks to our distinguished panelists, our esteemed moderator for an insightful and thought-provoking discussion. It was indeed very much healthy. Your perspectives have added immense value to our understanding of building future-ready, sustainable and inclusive cities. On behalf of Vidyalankar School of Information Technology and the VCMT Organizing Committee, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the R&D Committee for their relentless efforts in curating today's academic deliberations. A sincere thank you to our principal, Dr. Rohini Kelkar, for her guidance and unwavering support. We also express our appreciation to our vice principals, Dr. Asif Rampurawala and Professor Vijay Gavde, our CAO, Dr. Umesh Koyande, and our COO, Ms. Sindhu Krishnan ma'am, for their continuous encouragement and leadership in making this conference a success. To every faculty member, student volunteer, technical team, and organizing members, your dedication and tireless efforts have made this session seamless and impactful. With this, we conclude the first session of the 12th International Multidisciplinary VCMT Conference. Before we, move to the second segment, a few instructions. After 2:30, the presentations will be starting in B105. And all the MCOM students who are sitting over here are expected to meet Ajay sir after the session gets over. And the feedback link, we'll display it. Yeah. I request everyone to kindly share their valuable feedback. We can take them. Sir, मी सांगितलं होतं पण त्यांना. Thank you. Yeah, they packed. They packed.
हाँ नहीं पड़ी